Hello. Hello. We are back. Today, I've been putting this off. But we're gonna cover the Playtest 5 of One D&D. And I haven't been putting it off for how do I want to put it? I've been putting it off mostly because I haven't had a slot to put it in. The days per week that I play games and the days per week that I do D&D have been kind of fixed. And we did double episodes of the campaign with Shepherd and Faye and Sunstone on Saturdays lately. So, I have not had a good chance to do it. But, yes, I want to get to doing Playtest 5. We're not going to talk very much about weapons. I'm going to do a rebalancing of weapons for Celestia pretty soon. And I want to hold off talking about this chart until then. I will mention that in Celestia, we have something like their masteries, but it's not fixed to weapons. Some require a certain type of weapon, maybe blades or light or finesse weapons for specific moves, or versatile even. And of course, certain things only work with thrown weapons. But, yeah, we'll get into that more. Oops, sorry, I'm going too fast. But yeah, they do add these mastery properties, which so far only seem to be used by fighters. So, that's part of why I'm not going to talk about them too much until we actually get to the fighter part. They do add some new spells for us. In fact, they list what is apparently all the starting spells. I'm not going to talk too much about any of these. Book of Shadows is unique to the Warlock, so we might talk about that a little bit. I don't think this should be a spell, and I'll get into why. I will totally get into why. Besides, it's a cantrip, which makes it even a little more unusual. But yeah, most of these probably shouldn't be spells either. Chaos Bolt and Arcane Eruption are both Sorcerer specific. And I think they should be considered class features and not spells, even if you treat them or power them as if they're spells. Eldritch Blast is now specific to Warlock, which we'll get into. Create Spell definitely should not be a spell. I'm just gonna say that now. This again should be an ability. All wizards should be able to create spells. For that matter, I'd make it all sorcerers as well. Anyone who can get to 9th level spells in 5e should probably be able to get this. But yeah. We'll get into what this does. Definitely. It's not exactly creating a spell either. Memorizing a spell should not be a spell. Do you have to memorize the memorized spell? And right there should be the explanation of why that should definitely not be. Modify spell. I know why they did this. Sorcerers are just a little too strong with the meta magic. So they make this modify spell, which again should not be a spell. This should be an ability powered as if it was a spell. Though, being a ritual, oops, sorry. I accidentally clicked to highlight it, and I can't in this mode. But, being a ritual, it doesn't even use, like, a conventional spell slot. So, yeah, Impact Familiar is now a cantrip for Warlocks. But it does talk a bit about familiars. And, yeah, something like this is what I've been working on for Celestia. Sort of. Familiars in general are a ritual in Celestia. So it's a little bit different. But, I mean, this is a cantrip. So very similar. Actually, casting time 1 hour. It really might as well be a ritual cantrip. Packed weapon we'll get into. This again should be an ability and not a spell. Scribe spell also should not be a spell. Are you going to scribe the scribe spell? Wizards, should we have a little conversation about why these should not be spells? When English alone tells you that. Sorceress Burst and Sorceress Vitality and Sorceress Incarnate. All of these, again, not spells. This one, by the way, is the craziest. This one requires 1 minute of... it lasts for 1 minute, but you regain sorcery points. But it's a 5th level spell, and you'll never get back as many sorcery points as you put into it. Yeah, I don't... I know the extra functions of the spell are solid. It's like putting you into meta magic mode, which probably shouldn't be part of this either. But yeah, using a 5th level spell to get back 1d4 sorcery points, and then putting yourself in a meta magic mode seems a little weird. I might borrow aspects of the mode for sorcerers in Celestia. It would have to be at least 10th level if we're gonna match a 5th level spell. But the sorcery points, you can already regain those in Celestia starting at a much lower level. Much lower. Alright, we're gonna pass through the feats. Most of these we've seen before. I don't think there's any we really haven't, to at least some degree. Now, Barbarian is gonna look a lot like Barbarian. Though they get Weapon Mastery, which is for the new Weapon Masteries. And they actually start with 3 abilities. So dipping into Barbarian is pretty simple and easy. And might be a good choice for the right character. In fact, dipping one level into Barbarian when you're like a monk might be interesting. We haven't seen Monk yet. I don't think so. Or if we have, I'm completely blanking it from my mind. Which is probably good, knowing what they've done to Monk before. But they did do some changes, definitely. Most of those are listed here. Rage can now be extended as a bonus action. And that is a pretty good feature. And your rage can only last 10 minutes or until incapacitated. That makes perfect sense. Celestia doesn't have bonus actions anymore. So, I won't do that with Celestia. But if there's been that old thing where, you might punch yourself in the face to keep your rage going because there's no one around to punch, even though it's only because you're between one group and another. So you'll need that rage, but there's a small time between, like, turns where you're not engaged with anyone. It was always a sucky thing for a barbarian to encounter. So, yeah, this helps with that. Obviously, we already talked about weapon mastery a little bit. I don't think they get as much weapon mastery stuff. They merge Danger Sense with Feral Instinct, which we'll take a look at. Primal Knowledge. I think they did Primal Knowledge before. But personally, I think this is stupid. We'll get into it a little bit more when we see it. Indomitable Might was moved from 18th to 9th. So obviously, it was not nearly as powerful as they thought. Brutal Kill. Yes, I can talk today. Sure. Brutal Critical was moved from 9th to 11th. Personally, I didn't really like them moving this. Persistent Rage has moved down as well. This really helps with needing that. But obviously, they felt they should lower that. It wasn't as good. And Relentless Rage moved up because Brutal Critical filled its spot. So you had to move Relentless Rage up. I do like this change, though. You get a number of hit points equal to twice your Barbarian level. I actually considered making this change to Destroyers in Celestia. Because they have a similar feature to what Relentless Rage was. Because they are also a Rage class. So a lot of things are going to be in line. But if you're level 10, that means you jump to 20 hit points. Especially with Destroyers. They're very tanky. Usually. So, I looked at it, and I decided that they just don't need it. Obviously, regular barbarians, much squishier. So I can definitely see wanting to do this. Also, it's a lot easier to drink a potion in Celestia than it is here. Rage Resurgence. which is the whole, we're gonna refresh your rages by 1 whenever you enter combat. So you can always have a rage. But at 17th level, you're probably not even gonna get to 17th level. I don't even know if Celestia will get to 17th level. We'll see. And then Tribal Champion moved around because they put the epic feats at level 20. Yes, which is what we look at right next. Personally, this primal knowledge, since it's just another one of these skills, I would give them just 1 more skill to start, rather than giving it to them at 2nd level. Where is it? Yeah. You gain proficiency in another skill of your choice from the list. Why give this to you at 2nd level? Seriously. You just had 2 you got at 1st level. Now suddenly you develop another skill. Really? The other part of that is useful. Using strength for acrobatics, intimidation, perception, stealth, and survival checks. However, personally, survival to me, strength for survival checks. I don't think I'd ever do it, personally. What exactly, strength-wise, are you gonna do to make a survival check? Are you felling entire trees to make firewood? I don't know here. I don't know what that thought was. Also, stealth. Since you're raging, and I don't think you can stealth while raging, I don't think that even needs to be mentioned. Perception too. Yeah, I mean, I can see using your bonus for strength with a perception roll, maybe? Because mechanically, strength is likely your highest stat as a barbarian. And even acrobatics and intimidation, I can see. But perception, strength is not going to be perceiving anything. Unless you're breaking walls to perceive something. I mean, maybe in context we let them do that. Maybe. But yeah, I find the justification hard. Even if it says your strength represents your primal power. Yeah, I just... something besides strength. Maybe give them proficiency bonus? As if they had, that skill? Yeah. They don't even naturally get stealth. Or acrobatics, but they get athletics, perception, and survival. Intimidation? They don't get in. Oh, they do get intimidation. I was gonna say, that would seem a little strange. Barbarians are pretty intimidating. I would totally let you make an intimidation roll with strength. I wouldn't require this roll even. If you are massive, intimidating someone is easier. I guess technically there's nothing in this text that says you can't stealth while raged. But personally, I can't see using stealth. What is less stealthy than a raging barbarian? I mean, seriously. Seriously. An armored defense, pretty much the same. We talked a little bit about weapon mastery. I like some of the effects, but, yeah. I like my system for Celestia a lot better. In Celestia, you get fighting styles that are entire martial arts with their own unique abilities. And, destroyers, which are basically the barbarians of Celestia, do get that. So, they're a lot more interesting. And you can get a lot of moves, not just this one attached to a weapon. Reckless attack is still there. Barbarian subclass, feat, extra attack, fast movement. Subclass feature, feral instincts. Advantage on initiative rolls and dexterity saving throws. Which is that danger sense. I mean, yeah. Ready always for combat. This seems to make sense. Feats, indomitable might. This is very useful if you have a strength check. I don't know how many strength checks people are doing. It's a good question. And I'm not sure even Wizards knows. So, I have a lot of questions about this. I would make sure that this was applied to any strength skills as well. In fact, I have something like it in Celestia, and it does affect skills. I believe my wording is checks using strength. So, anything where you're rolling strength as your stat associated with the skill, or just the skill alone, you get this. Which is pretty nice, pretty nice. Subclass feature, Brutal Critical. Brutal Critical gives you some pretty hefty bonuses to your strengths. Destroyers in Celestia get this as well. Though since they get martial arts die, we use martial arts die rather than the weapon, which makes it maybe a little more awkward compared to their system. But you're so used to using your martial arts die, or martial die, sorry. I always want to call them martial arts because the fighting styles are basically martial arts. Persistent Rage. Yeah, this just gets rid of needing that bonus action to keep raging, which is worthwhile. But I'm not sure it's level 13 sort of power level. Yeah. I think I don't like the level that happens at. I would like that to be further down. There's no real reason it needs to be level 13. Other than they just didn't have room for it. Relentless Rage. We talked a little bit about this. When you drop to 0 hit points while you're in a rage, you can make what is effectively a death saving throw. And if you make it, your HP is equal to twice your Barbarian level. So, That is nice. You probably won't instantly drop back to 0. But you never know. What if the next one to go was an enemy mage? It could be bad. It could be very bad. It does let you do this multiple times, but the DC increases by 5 each time. Personally, in Celestia, if I were gonna do the same thing, I would make it disadvantage increases, because you can have multiple levels of disadvantage in Celestia. Which is why having multiple levels of edge, advantage, or hindrance / disadvantage is a core component of Celestia. Rage Resurgence just gives you one more use of rage every time you roll initiative. Primal Champion got decreased. The bonus used to be +4, it's now +2. Personally, I would have it be +4 still. It doesn't really seem like, I don't know, worth it somehow. Also, you have to make the maximum a 22, because most people are already going to have their strength maxed as a barbarian at level 18. You've had so many chances to boost your strength if you haven't already. So this just seems silly to even mention that. Just give them the +2. Everything else is the same. Path of the Berserker. Frenzy no longer causes you to gain a level of exhaustion. Solid. Solid. Oh, and it gives extra damage with reckless attacks. I don't know. The bonus action part, Kriv, a destroyer, and so uses very similar rules in Celestia, is level 9 now, and never really had too much of an issue between bonus actions and rage. Yeah, I don't think that's even needed. That just seems kind of redundant. Mindless Rage, getting rid of Charmed and Frightened. Totally fine. Should have been that way before. Those things just don't stick on someone who's frenzied. Retaliation moved down. That one was decent. Basically, it just lets you use your reaction to make a melee attack. Which, if you're using the rules to give someone a reaction when they move away from you in combat, it's very similar to this. I mean, this is basically the same reaction ability, except that it's on damage. But you only have one reaction. I don't know if that's even worth level 10. I would make that, like, level 3? 6? Much lower. Much lower. It's not that big a difference. Intimidating Presence which is moved up. It makes people frightened of you. I'm not sure it's worth it at level 14. That is awfully high. Awfully high. Fighters, they still get that generic fighting style. I'm not a big fan of that. Second wind, weapon mastery, action surge at second level. I really want to show you guys Lancer from Celestia. Only because I did a neat thing with second wind. Second wind here can now be used more than once per long rest, without requiring a short rest. Solid move. Using second wind more often is a good thing. They got Persuasion as a class skill. Solid choice. Always good to have Persuasion as an option. Yeah. We'll look into some of this pretty soon here. Action Surge is now limited to certain fighter-themed actions. We're gonna look at that. Weapon Expert is now a 7th level feature. That's new. Indomitable now gives you a bonus to the reroll equal to your fighter level. We'll have to look at that. Weapon Adept. So, Expert and Adept. We really need to look at those. But I don't like that it's Weapon Mastery, and now we have Experts and Adepts. If you're a master of something, then that should be higher than Experts. Or equal to Experts, anyway. It's just word-wise. Just word-wise. And your third attack got moved down to 18th level. I think in Celestia I moved it even lower. Mostly because having extra actions, or rather extra attacks in your actions, can be very useful. There's only a handful of classes that really use one of the features offered by Celestia, which is an all-out attack. And fighters are one of those, or rather Lancers, which is the name for fighters. Yeah, there's not a lot of changes. But, second wind, let's look at that. We wanted to. As a bonus action, you can regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. You can use this feature twice, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. You know what? We're gonna kick out of here for a sec. I had it open over here. Sorry. Lots of screens. Because I was looking at it earlier. And, comparing things. I didn't really look at the classes, per se. Not for the purposes of this. But I was looking at a few of the details. So, second wind in Celestia. Hopefully you can see that. It might be a little bit small. We can sort of fix that. You have a well of stamina that you can draw on to keep yourself going after being harmed. On your turn, you can use an action to regain health, equal to your martial die plus your level. This uses one of your hit die, or health die, as I want to term them in Celestia. So you can be used, so can be used as many times as you have hit dice. So when you recover hit dice, you regain uses of second wind. After an encounter where you can use this ability to gain 1 level of exhaustion. Basically, if you're using this to refresh yourself, you're drawing on your own exhaustion levels. But exhaustion works a bit differently in Celestia. It's not as punishing. So, yes, I like my version a lot better. A Lancer, which is the fighter of Celestia, can basically keep healing themselves once per turn. In fact, I probably need to add the text about once per turn to that. But they can keep doing that every turn if they need to. That lets them be less of a drag on any healer in the group. So if the healer needs to do other things, and the Lancer is the one taking the bulk of the damage, they can do that. Both of the tanky classes in Celestia, or rather archetypes, the Destroyer and the Lancer, both get that sort of feature. And I think... No, I didn't give it to them. Spellblades, though, do get second wind. So, they do get some spells, but their spell progression is really slow. They have to be 17th level to get 5th level spells. So, yeah. They're basically a mix of Lancer and a half-caster. So they get most of the Lancer abilities, with a few specific ones of their own, because they're meant to be sort of the arcane version of paladins. So, let's go back in presentation mode. Action Surge now can only be used for attack, dash, disengage, or dodge. I actually restrict it even more. Action Surge is basically to get more attacks in Celestia. There is no option to dash, disengage, or dodge. Yeah, and it's pretty useful for that. I don't know too many warriors that were doing something else with an action surge. I could see the points, but yeah. In Celestia, when I did that, there just wasn't a need, since you already have 4 actions per turn in Celestia. There was not nearly as big a reason to dash or disengage or dodge to replace the attack. That is what Action Surge is really good at. Everything else is about the same till we get to Weapon Expert. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can choose one of the kinds of mastery properties replace the mastery property of one type of weapon with another mastery property. There's a line here about needing to qualify for the new property. And and I don't know what those requirements would be. Ow, sorry. Yes, I will just bump the mic. Sure. I'm not gonna go look. But, yeah, I probably wouldn't limit you too much. But this whole thing in Celestia is part of your fighting style. In fact, you get multiple fighting styles with lots of techniques. Fighters are, how should I put this, just as adaptable as like a wizard. Usually much shorter range, but spears, thrown weapons, all that works. They did do a little bit of a boost. I mean, the weapon mastery sort of does something. But yes, Vic, I do totally get you. Yeah. Basically, I took maneuvers in Celestia and I made them into fighting styles, which give passives and techniques, which is the replacement for maneuvers, and fighters become beasts. They're like wizards, except melee range. Easily, I don't think most of the fighters are going to be considered less powerful than wizards in Celestia. I mean, possibly they don't get a lot of like extra high damage dealing abilities, but they're usually hitting more often. So it's a trade-off, but they can be brutal, just absolutely brutal. Boca actually proved this in one of the test sessions. She just strangleholded like both opponents, taking them out without actually having to even deal damage. It was actually kind of crazy. I had to tweak grappling and how that works, because it was a little too strong. I mean, it was very realistic, as unfortunately we saw in New York the other day. Chokeholds are devastating if you know what you're doing, or at least sort of do. Yes, that's basically what Lancers do. I'm gonna show you real quick. So, here are the fighting styles in Celestia. As a fighter, actually, as a destroyer, a fighter, or a spellblade, you pick a fighting style. They give a passive, or at least most do, some do not. But they give some sort of passive, but they also give techniques. Like, let's see what a good one would be. So, a lot of these are based on real fighting styles. So you have like a Scrima. I'm still working a little bit on the weapons that you're familiar with and how that works into this. But they get aggressive parries, which is basically a reaction that is an attack. So if you're hit, you can strike back. Oh no, actually this one is different. Sorry, I'm thinking of Counter-Strike. Aggressive parry, you do use your reaction, but you reduce the damage that you have by your martial die plus your dexterity or strength modifier. Basically, you smack your weapon into theirs to limit the damage. You have arm locks, chokeholds, disarming strikes, elbow strikes. Some of these, obviously, I haven't finished. Feint, by the way, is a little bit costly since it's an action to use. Hey, Sun Eater, how you doing? But with a feint, you get advantage on your next attack. So, in Celestia, you use your first action to do a feint, then your follow-up has advantage. Very, very deadly with, like, Slayers, which are basically rogues crossed with rangers. Because they get sneak attack. Well, it's actually called edge attack in Celestia, because advantage is called edge. You get edge on a roll, you have advantage. So, that's why the name. But anytime you have edge in Celestia as a Slayer, you can use your edge attack to deal extra damage, which makes feint deadly. A Slayer with Eskrima who learns feint can basically sneak attack every turn because you catch the enemy off guard and you deal devastating damage. I have to throw someone who has that into an encounter sometime soon. I'll let the enemy use it on the players for a bit. No. Feint, it's not listed here, but, well, it sort of is. It has a range that is specifically melee, so it has to be a melee attack. Obviously, it's not really something you can do outside of melee range. So, obviously, you're not really gonna get it on any spells unless they happen to be melee. So, a Spellblade, for instance, could do that. A Spellblade could use a feint and follow that up by doing like a blade spell. Blade spells are basically special types of what are they called? Brain not work. I can't think of the name. Smites. They're special versions of smites that are cast as spells. So, Thought Dagger is both a spell and not a spell. Because it's basically a melee weapon in certain cases, or a ranged weapon. So, Thought Dagger is a little bit different. But yeah, mental strength, power blow. Power blow is good if you don't have a lot of attacks, because it lets you deal extra damage. Especially if you do multiple moves in one turn. You can do a feint followed by a power blow, which would have advantage when it hits. So you have a really good chance at doing a really big hit. Especially if you happen to crit. Destroyers, by the way, using power blow is a very solid move. Pressure point strikes, targeted attacks. All useful things. But yeah, I really went wild in giving, like, fighter types a lot of extra actions. You might be able to see it here, but they get additional fighting styles at different levels. In fact, 7th and 15th. And they're gaining new techniques all the time. Double crits are a thing. You don't gain anything from them. Though, I'm kind of tempted to do something like that. No. They're, at least currently, they're all tied to styles. There is a master list of all the techniques. A very long list. Oops. Don't want to give away any of the ones in progress. But this is what I pull from when I add an ability to one of the styles. So, and there are some styles like free fighting right here. With free fighting, you can learn a technique of any style you've ever encountered or seen. So if you see an enemy use a technique, you can adapt that technique the next time you get it a choice. Which is a really huge passive for this. Yeah. Free fighting already gets a lot of abilities. A lot. But yeah. It's definitely a lot more advanced than what 5e is using. Which is one reason the fighters are so much stronger in Celestia than they are in 5e. So, a crit in Celestia Sun Eater is the max damage for the dice plus a new roll. With any adjustments figured in. So usually that's a lot of damage, but it really depends on what you're critting with. Obviously, you crit with some things, it's gonna hurt a lot more. A lot more. Anyway, back to here. Indomitable. If you fail a saving throw, you can reroll it with a bonus equal to your fighter level. And you have to use the new roll. This is like a really crappy version of luck at 9th level. I am not sure I like that at all. I'd rather have luck. Or lucky, rather. Weapon Adept. When you use your Weapon Expert feature on a kind of weapon, you can give that kind of weapon 2 properties rather than 1. And if you just had a lot of techniques, like in Celestia, you could have a lot of things you're doing all the time. Yeah, they did mostly cripple luck compared to what it used to be. But I mean, I can see why. One of my concepts when I was building Celestia, or rather, I was gonna do it as part of 5e, because I was adjusting all the weapons, was to give the weapons special properties. So like a whip was going to have like an entangle property. So you could, entangle a weapon or a person or a limb. But I didn't do that. I preferred making them into like fighting styles. That felt a lot better. Nothing else here really interests me. Oh, unconquerable. This has to be the worst thing ever. 17th level. You can tap into a deep well of resilience within yourself. If you fail a saving throw and your indomitable feature is expended, you can use it again by expending a use of your second wind, which happens to heal you as well. I'm not sure if that's worth it. Especially as late as 17th level. Most players are never gonna see this. And it's using your second winds. You get 2. 2. Yeah, I didn't think Indomitable was all that great. This just makes it sort of worse. I mean, it does let you use the second wind as basically a reaction. It's not using your reaction, but it's a kind of reaction, which is sort of nice. But yeah. I don't like that. I don't like that. Champion was the worst of the subtypes for fighter. No offense, but Battle Master, definitely the best. Which is why I rolled Battle Master into the core of the Lancer in Celestia. They do get an additional fighting style. Ooh, you get a new passive. Yeah. They get a lot of 6th level features. So once per encounter, you can give yourself heroic advantage. That's somehow worth it? Improved criticals, superior criticals. I mean, that part is another thing that I simply moved straight into Lancers when I made the fighter equivalent for Celestia. I just pulled that stuff straight into the core. And yeah, Survivor, advantage on death saving throws. And you can use your superior critical on it. That's kind of nice. I would lower that. Yeah, I could see that being a 10th level thing on its own. Heroic Rally is basically fast healing. I would actually have that as a 14th level ability all on its own. You just regenerate hit points every turn if you're under half health. I have no problems with this whatsoever. It's easily the best feature I see there. But I think Defy Death could have been a thing on its own at 10th level. Give even superior critical a bump downwards. That would have made Champion more impressive. Yeah, if I was just handed this subclass and I wanted to make it better, that's how I would redo it. I would have something. I would probably increase heroic rally a little bit to offset the fact that you're doing it at 14th level. 5 points plus your con modifier isn't a lot. It's good fast healing. It might be worth it at 14th on its own. But, yeah. Most of these just need to go down. Okay, let's look at Sorcerer. Okay, this is when we get into those new spells that are Sorcerer only, which I don't think they should have been spells on their own. But I'll get into that. You get Sorcerer's Burst and Chaos Bolt. And you always have them prepared. So, they sort of work themselves into a whole with limiting you a lot with the spells you can have at any given time. We'll see that when we get to the subclass. They're gonna toss some spells at us probably. Though I don't see them there. But they learned that they needed a few more spells. But yeah. I don't like the whole prepared caster thing. It's actually part of my changes for sorcerers in Celestia. There is a sorcerer in Celestia. Yeah, they lay them out weirdly. I would just make these not sorcerer's bursts. Well, heck, call them this, but they're not spells. Slash the spell part. They're just using your spell slots, but they're not spells. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, it's sort of the same. I totally uprooted how the whole system works for sorcerers in Celestia. We can compare in a sec. Font of Magic, that gives you sorcery points, but you can't really do much at all with sorcery points except cast more spells. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to highlight again. It costs usually one more, so it starts getting bigger and bigger. But it costs more sorcery points than the spell level. I did away with that. That was one of the first things. Sorcery points in 5e version of Celestia was spell slot level. 1-to-1. That made them a lot more useful and a lot less balancing for me. So, yes, they always should have been at the same level. Well, sort of. Personally, meta magic, I actually wait a bit, even though this is a core feature for sorcerers in Celestia. Meta magic is the focus of the class, and it works a little bit differently. You'll understand why when we take a look. The subclass, the Sorceress, Vitality, Arcane Eruption. Again, those should just be abilities. You can power them with spell slots all you want. Just don't make them spells. Same for Sorcery Incarnate. Works the same way. Should not be a spell. Move that back to an ability. You don't have to call everything spells. Heck, monks and fighters in Celestia use spells as the place to hold their techniques. So, they're still not considered spells, but they're put in the same category. Yeah, you get more meta magic. I did away with that entirely. I don't like having wish prepared. I don't like the wish spell, especially this use of it, where you replicate a 1st through 8th level spell with it. I just don't like wish. I can understand, like, certain beings, like deities, or jinn, or creatures like that, being able to do something along the lines of wish as an ability. But I don't like the wish spell. I never have. Not from 1st edition. It's been there a long time. And yeah, they did a lot. So, one of the big things I really don't like is the redesign for Twin Spell. I did see this when I glanced through. Twin Spell lets you cast the same spell in 2 different turns without costing more points. Well, it costs sorcery points to do it, but it doesn't cast like an extra spell slot. I don't like the mechanics of that at all. Not at all. That is my least favorite thing. In fact, before we go any farther, let me show off the Sorcerer archetype in Celestia. As a comparison, yes, it's kind of like an echo. It's why I really don't like that take they have for the new version. So, this is my Sorcerer. There's a concentration pool. We're not going to get into that here. But that is a big difference. Also, you just see spell points. They're in max spell level. Because they don't have spell slots. They have spell points. You just buy the spell when you cast it. Using spell points. So, I know this is gonna seem weird, but you start with usually about 5 points, a little bit more than you'd have in spell slots, and you get a little boost over time, but you get a really big boost by the end. I actually converted all the spell slots you would usually have into your base. But yeah, literally, every spell they cast is by spell points. They have a maximum spell level, so they're restricted that way. But it makes it so meta magic is now so much more a part of the Sorcerer, literally, they're always using what is meta magic in 5e. Because they're always casting all their spells out of spell points. They have an active spells list because they can only have so many spells in memory. But other than that, they get fond of magic right at the start. That is a key part of sorcerers here. But that mostly talks about the different things and describes spell points. Because font of magic is a key part of being a sorcerer in Celestia. Not so much here. Because if we look at this, they get innate sorcery, not anything related to meta magic. They get their spellcasting in innate sorcery. That's it. They don't get meta magic until the next level. I made meta magic a key part of the class. In fact, at second level, the big thing they gain is no more materials, with a few exceptions. Any spell that usually has material components, they ignore that. Across the board. It doesn't cost points. They can just get rid of the material category when casting spells. At third level, they do the same thing with the vocal parts of spells. They can now silently cast any spell they want. And it's actually kind of funny. Almost none of the mages or sorcerers in either of the games actually even uses silent spell. They get it for free. They almost never use it. I mean, it was very limited before. Usually you'd create some like stealth sorcerer to actually use the silent spell feat. Now they get it for free, still not really using it. It's a great ability though, if you don't want to give away your position. And fourth level, they can now conceal spells. They no longer even need to make gestures. So, no more waving the fingers at people. Usually, you still throw out your hand in the general area to direct the energy, but there's no more gestures. It's just built into the class. So, no more materials, no more words that you need to say, and fourth level, no more gestures. So you've now eliminated the vocal, somatic, and material components to spells. Sorcerers get all those. And fifth level is meta magic. But for sorcerers, they get all of them. You can literally edit any spell you cast by just spending sorcery points and manipulating the spell in whatever way you want. Usually, that is one feature. So, like, if you want to twin a spell, cast the same spell twice. And I need to put some conditions on that. But, yes. Basically, you can cast the same spell twice, but it's gonna cost extra points. Boca in the Celestia campaign loves to cast twinned fireballs. It's her signature move. she actually spends 3 points for the first fireball, 2 points to twin it, and another 3 points for the other fireball. So she spends 8 sorcery points, or spell points, every single time she does that. In fact, her favorite thing to do is to twin spells. There are others that she might want to do sometime. She hasn't really done them. But yeah, this combination here, you basically start taking the primary parts of meta magic and you make them the core parts. In fact, 6th level, innate counterspell. You can counterspell just by spending points and possibly making a roll. Yeah, basically, sorcerers in Celestia are all about manipulating spells. This is not that. I don't know why. I mean, I know they understand that meta magic is a key part of sorcerers here, but they don't seem to have taken that to the next level. You're still so limited. I did not do that with Celestia. And yeah, Draconic Sorcery is the only subclass they give us. I've never liked the Draconic Sorcery subtype, or subclass. Obviously, you know, getting the armor bonus is great. Extra hit points, great. But it definitely makes a more durable caster. With, of course, the option to have wings, so fly. Yes, in Celestia, the difference between a sorcerer and a wizard is that sorcerers can modify their spells anytime, any spell. It's the key part of what they are. Wizards can't do that. They don't have the option. So, yeah, I'm not even gonna look at these, by the way. I don't think you need to. They tie them back into your abilities, but, yeah. You even have to have your sorcery incarnate spell active to fly. Anyway. Yes, meta magic is the key to Celestia sorcerers. That is not the case in 5e. Meta magic is a core feature, but they still keep it so separate. Which is why I felt the whole point of Sorcerer was to focus on the meta magic. And I'm gonna skip Warlock for now. We're gonna jump down to Wizard since we just talked about Sorcerer. I'll get into Warlock. I will. I want to talk about Wizard first, only because it's the closest equivalent to what we just looked at. Obviously, spellcasting, it's going to be pretty much what we just saw. Wizard spell books. I actually, in Celestia, give both sorcerers, as well as mystics and wizards, all spell books. In fact, all casters get a book that they can write their spells in. I don't see that as a key feature of the class. Just to give a little comparison, let me pull up Wizard here, which also gets Font of Power, because they also get spell points. But they do a little bit differently with their spell points, and they get a lot less. They can still, convert spell points to spell slots, and that is the most they really do with their spell points. But they do have it. They also do get some forms of metamagic. They get not requiring materials, silent spells, concealed spells, just like sorcerers do. I didn't feel like leaving them out of that. But they get other things. None of these are metamagic. So, yeah, like cantrip formulas, where you can replace one cantrip you know with another cantrip from your book. Spell blending, letting you combine two spells together. Still not metamagic, though a little more borderline. And yeah, then they mostly get features that are about boosting their energy so they can cast more spells. But yeah, none of that is talking about spellbooks. I use that to replace Arcane Recovery. Arcane Recovery kind of sucks. It's just a lot better if you just give them spell points, sorcery points, whatever you want to call it, and use those. Then you get your subclass. Memorize spell should not be a spell. There should not be a memorize spell. No. Toss that out. Completely get rid of that. Yeah, I don't have a scribe spell in Celestia either. That is a core part of spellcasting. This whole memorizing thing, the scribe spell, all of those are part of spellcasting. There is no difference. Don't put them here. No, they are not class features. Stop it, wizards. Stop it. Also, modify spell. Should not be a spell. It should be an ability if you're gonna do it. And again, if you're gonna go this route, simply replace Arcane Recovery with sorcery points and tie that into modify spell. If you have to do that. But this is a ritual first. So, we might as well just... I think that one's a ritual. I know the create one is. I'm pretty sure that is as well. But I'm not confident. All these should just be parts of innate spellcasting as far as I'm concerned. Same with create spell. There's an entire system to create spells in Celestia. In fact, some of the characters in Arcane Academy on Thursday nights use that. They're sort of third level. They get their abilities handed to them slowly over the course of a year in the campaign because they're at a school for wizards, sorcerers, and mystics. So, but they can already create spells. There is no reason to wall it off until 9th level. In fact, making it a ritual even is stupid. That should be something you just take your time to create. There should not be really mechanics related to that as far as anything close to combat or normal activities. You're going to create spells mostly on downtime. You gotta research it, test your spells, get things right. It's gonna take a lot of time. It should not be one ritual, wipe your hands, done with it. Yeah. Even in Celestia, spells are usually built off of another spell. I'll show you what I mean. Do I even... So. Fairy Flames is sort of the equivalent. To I can't think of the name of it. The cleric guiding bolt spell. I gave this as an example in one of their classes when they were learning how to create spells. But Fairy Flames we took apart. We made it so it's not single target anymore. It now targets 2 nearby targets. They have to be within a certain arc of each other. But it reduces the damage as well. And yes, we have split Fairy Flames, which now can mark 2 targets with advantage if they both hit. Usually they both don't hit, so not terribly likely to do that part, but it is a very effective spell in the right situation because it gives advantage to the next person to attack. But yeah, I mean, that's based off of an existing spell. We took the spell, we changed what it does, we modified the damage to go with that change, but I don't know if I show it here. No, I do. Yeah, there's, in fact, 2 whole paragraphs to describe talking about changing a spell into a new one or creating one from scratch. But mostly there's going to be some sort of example spell. I mean, if you want to create a ball of ice, there's a ball of fire spell. Oh. I'll give you a second. Well, a couple of seconds. Let me get some water, actually. I've been talking straight for an hour and a half. I look so weird when I'm drinking water. I know you understand ads are a thing. So, I hope you're out of the ad. It does say they're over on my system. I'm not sure. Okay. So, there are so many spells that there's going to be something to base a spell on, rather than just creating one from scratch. I mean, I even build on previous spells to make new ones, so. There is an announcement thing that tells me that I can see, but it's way back. It's basically 90 degrees to the side for me, so I normally don't notice. So yeah, if I'm looking ahead, I probably could see that it's there, but I probably won't notice it's there. It's not like it moves or something. It just lights up with some text. But yeah, I mean, if you want to make a ball of ice or a ball of frost, whatever you would like to call it, there's already a ball of fire. And if you want, I mean, heck, you could change the type super easily. Ball of radiance, maybe add in some blinding. Yes, lightning, ball of lightning, or ball of electricity, thunderball, whatever you want to call it. There's already an example. You can use that example and tweak it to fit your needs. So, as an example, in Celestia, if you want to create a ball of radiance, we can use the fireball, which is a targeted attack, which means it forces someone to make a saving throw. We already have damage. I'm really considering lowering the damage output. It's a little bit high, I think. But we can change the damage type. We'll make that radiant damage. So, the basic version, if we didn't want it to dazzle people, would be to just convert fire to radiant, and everything else could stay the same. But, let's make it have a blinding effect. In fact, right below is another spell called Blinding. This, by the way, does not give you a saving throw. This version. Blinding, you're simply blind. If you can be blind, you are now blind. And it lasts for 1 minute. But yeah, if we want to make our ball of radiance, so we're going to tack on... what does... I know... there's a blinding spell that's low level. Actually, I know darkness is 2nd level. Well, it's, Sphere of Darkness. Yes. It gives us our blinded condition. It's about the same size. So, looking at that, it's a 2nd level spell. So, let's say we have the damage. It will do 46 radiant damage, but if you fail the save, you take full damage and you're now blinded. Now there is another status condition in Celestia, which is actually called I changed it. There's impaired conditions. You can have different impaired conditions. But, yeah, we could give you blinded. It really depends. You could add a lot of different conditions. If you wanted to make it so that it does blinding, and for a group of targets, it would probably have to be a higher level than this. Because when you upcast this, it blinds more than one person. So at 4th level, it would blind 2 people. 5th level, it would blind 3 people. So, using that as our baseline, you would do away with all the damage if you wanted to guarantee they're blinded. And that's at 3rd level. So, if you wanted, I think Maple talked to me about this, but they wanted to make the equivalent of, I can't think of the name. The grenades that, had the blinding strobe effect. We were going to make a version that yes, flashbang. Sorry, I'm thinking of D&D and TTRPG stuff. My brain's totally off on a tangent. So flashbang was not coming to me. But, yeah. You could make one. It would do probably very little damage. But the version we came up with would have the dazed effect rather than blind. It gives you disadvantage on attacks, checks, and saves. Which makes a lot of sense for a flashbang. And I think we had it so you're blinded if you don't make the save, and whether you save or not, you're dazed. And I think we made it do like 1d6 damage. And when we figured it out, it would be probably closer to a 3rd level spell than a 2nd level one, unless we wanted to give it a really small area. So, yeah. But yeah, anyway, that's constructing spells. Totally off topic. Sort of. We were talking about wizards. But yeah, they also get signature spells. Choose 2 3rd level spells in your spellbook as signature spells. Who is not choosing Fireball? Raise your hand. The spell is too good. you can cast each one without expending a spell slot. So, yeah. Take Fireball as one of those, definitely. I'm not even sure what the other one would be, but, I see a lot of Fireball for signature spell. Which, by the way, this is actually going to be one of the systems that Celestia is going to have. I'm going to make it so wizards do get signature spells, but it's not that, they, like, how do I want to put this? It's not that they get an extra cast of it, but this is a spell they use so often, that they can customize their version of the spell. It's kind of like the modify spell concept, but there's no ritual. You have just used the spell so many times that you know how to use it back and forth and can now customize it. And that is going to be the signature spell system for Celestia, and wizards will get that. Wizards are actually somewhat more suited to certain things in Celestia, but they're subpar. I mean, you have sorcerers who, use metamagic constantly. They probably have fewer spells than you, but does that really matter? They're customizing their spells all the time. Even when I put in the signature spell system, you're gonna have, I'm gonna do signature spells of each level. So you'll get signature spells, one for each particular level at a certain point. I haven't put that in yet. It's going to take a lot of work. That's why I haven't. But yeah, it's to sort of offset that. You won't get 9th and 10th level signature spells. But probably 7th? I'd probably let 7th level. Celestia, by the way, goes to 10 rather than 9. And lightning bolts, straight line. Takes way too much to get all your enemies to line up in a line. That's why lightning bolts is considered inferior anymore. It used to be such a signature spell. In fact, one of the things someone could do with signature spell in Celestia is that, obviously it's not in here yet. I need to add that. But I need to add a category to this that is for signature spells, to tell you what level you get what at. And that's how I'm going to add that in. That's why it's a lot of work. But there are other types of... I think I have that a little bit. Let me see if I can find one. Well, I have one here. This one, Raging Torrents. This is a wave. There are other patterns besides just spheres, columns, lines, cones. You could actually customize your, do I actually have a list of them? I don't know if I do. I should. But you can recreate the guidance method. So, maybe, you make your lightning bolt so you can target the path that it follows. And you have a 30-foot path. So, your path could take your lightning bolt, your signature lightning bolt, or your sorceress metamagic lightning bolt could go, hit one target, veer to the side, hit his buddy, jump forward again, hit a third guy, come back around to the other side of your friendly unit who's in the middle of them, and smack a fourth guy. So, path is probably way better than line. It's kind of like the old chain lightning a few editions ago. I don't even know if chain lightning is in 5e. It's been so long. I don't know. But, yeah. Path is way better than line. Way better. If I were going to have a signature lightning bolt, I would make it path. Totally. Okay. I don't know how it works. I could look that up. You know what? We will look it up really quick. Let's just launch that. I don't even need that. So. Yeah, I don't like this version at all. Yes, it is 6th level now. It used to be 5th, by the Sorry, choking. But yeah, it used to be a 5th level one. But now it just strikes up to 3 other targets within 30 feet of the one you hit. That is not how chained lightning used to work. It used to be basically path, and that you would fire it at a target. It would then be able to bounce to another target, and from that target to a third target, and onwards until you ran out of distance. Path is basically like that. But yeah, Path is way better. Way better. In fact, I haven't put it in yet because I'm still working on 4th level spells. But 4th level spells in Celestia are probably going to have chained lightning, which is going to be a path version. You get probably a 60-foot path. That's what I'm thinking. And since you just control how many 5-foot spaces it travels into and where it turns, you can go around obstacles. Like if they're behind cover, you can hit them behind cover. Yes, chained lightning in 3rd edition was really crazy. Or 3.5. I'm mostly used to it in 3.5. I did play 3rd, but 3rd was only around for what felt like a very short time before we got 3.5. Yeah. This, doing it as a path, way better. Way better. In fact, if all your enemies want to be really close together, you could have a chained lightning that hits. Let's see. I need some math, so where's my calculator? 60 feet divided into 5. You could actually hit 12 targets with a path-based chain lightning. Well, try. I mean, you would do some damage, because usually, unless they have, like, danger sense or something like that, they might not take full damage, but, yeah, you could potentially hit up to 12 targets if each one happened to be next to each other, even if that was some crazy sort of pattern. Yeah, way better. And it's a lower level. I'm not sure if it's gonna be 5th level, or 4th level. I'm still considering which. But it's gonna be a much closer rival to Fireball. It's not gonna be 3rd level, but it's gonna be a viable option. A viable option. In fact, Brawlers, the monks of Celestia, have a type, which is the Elemental Brawler, and I think one of the ones they get is Chained Lightning. Oh, I guess not. Well, they would now. They would now. Alright, give me 1 sec. I need to use the restroom. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Alright, well, I think that mostly covers Wizard. They need to have much more unique flavor. That's my final decision. They're still really powerful, but it's like they don't have a focus until, of course, they take their subclass. Then they have a focus, but it's not a focus really, well, I guess I'll point it out in Celestia terms. So, in Celestia, because we're gonna go back there. Wizards don't choose usually a, well, there's no schools of magic in the D&D sense. There's no, like, clearly defined enchantment, necromancy, abjuration, etc. They pick a focus instead. Evokers focus on basically combat spells. Diviners focus on divination as a class, not as like a type of spell specifically. Alchemist is now a thing. An alchemist wizard focuses on alchemy. Healer wizards, which are not necromancers. It was getting too confusing. But I had to pull those out from necromancy. And there is a necromancer wizard. But it's outlawed in Celestia. So. Same with summoner. Summoner is a thing, not a conjuration wizard. Transmuters are a thing, because transmuting stuff is totally a focus. But your focus is what you get, as far as types of spells. And that's not necessarily school-based. So all your subtypes give bonuses to that. Which sort of is done here. Over-channeling, by the way, there is a form of that you can do in Celestia. It's actually something you can do right from the start of the game. It is a core part of spellcasting. But it gives you exhaustion instead. And you probably don't want to use it too much. But it is the first type of recharge ability sorcerers and wizards get. They can sculpt spells. Yeah, I know why they have this, but I don't like that. Sorry, I don't. But yeah. Sculpting spells is nice. It lets you throw out those fireballs. And, you know, you're not gonna hit all your teammates. It's also, if you are an evoker wizard, figuring you had my version of Chain Lightning available, why would you not just take the fireball and always use the fireball? It's so much better than, you know, even pathing, because it's a lower level spell. Alright, well, all that said, we've looked at Wizard. Wizard is still strong. So, I don't like how they do Wizard, but I've never liked how they do Wizard. So, I mean, even in the old days, I wasn't really thrilled with Wizard. It was always about the spells, not so much the other things. Which made it so much more generic. But, let's look at Warlock. Medium armor, solid. They're much more likely to be closer to the front. They already had light armor. getting medium armor just helps that out. Unlike Celestia, there's not any sort of option to, like, have strong light armor. So, having an option for medium armor, much better for Warlocks. There are no Warlocks, by the way, in Celestia. There are packs, and you can get those regardless of class. But they're their whole own thing. They're not related to a type of magic. The closest is probably the Mystic in Celestia. Mystics are full casters. Well, no, they're half casters, but they're more front-loaded. And they still get spells like the old Warlocks, so they upcast everything. But they're closer to, like, druids or clerics than they are Warlocks. The spellcasting, though, was straight sort of Warlock base. It was all about how they use their power, though they get magical secrets, so they can basically get one slot of a higher level. I think that got them to, like, 8th level spells, actually. They can only cast a handful of those higher level spells, but they could do it. They could do it. They also had to be really high level for that, but it's better than this, where at 17th level, you're just getting 5th level spells. Warlocks here are definitely not really caster focused anymore. Pact Boon was moved to 1st level, yes. Which automatically gives you Eldritch Blast, Hex, and a spell of your choice from a set of 3. Yeah, I definitely see that. I'll pull up Mystic just because it's the closest. Literally, all they get at 1st level is spellcasting. That's it. They get Mystic enhancements later on, which are pretty close to Warlock invocations. But, yeah. I actually don't remember when Warlocks became a thing. I think it was 4th edition. The much maligned 4th edition. Because they weren't a thing in 3rd. Yes. 4th edition, there's reasons to like it. There's reasons not to like it. I don't remember them in 3.5. But it's been a long time since I played 3.5. Without it being 1st edition Pathfinder. I don't think I ever had complete Arcana. Yeah. I can see that. Spell-like abilities. I know they were a thing in 4th, which is why they reappeared in 5th. I don't remember how they were in 4th. I never really played enough 4th, or any 4th, actually. I had the 4th edition books, but literally no one ever wanted to play it, so. And I wasn't really big on doing D&D anymore. I'd moved on to other systems. But, yeah. Yeah, I don't know why you would even give them pact magic. Just give them spellcasting, damn it. Do they really only have 4 spells? I don't remember this. I know mystics in Celestia do not max out at 4 spells. We'll look it up. I should have probably just left this up, really, in case we need to look at it. Wow, they really did max at 4 spells. I guess that's one of those things I changed for mystics. Because if you look at mystics, their base is 10 spells. So, a lot more than 4. A lot more. Yeah. I mean, getting more spells to use is good. How low they are, I don't know. Do you want a few really powerful spells? Or do you want a lot of low-level ones? That is sort of the choice. With this, you're not even getting your first fireball until 9th level. All the other casters have had it since 5th. Yeah, I mean, still, throwing a fireball, very nice, but... I'll talk about that a little more shortly. Invocations, I did like the concept. Basically getting spells as abilities, for the most part. But... Anyway. I don't even remember Mystic Arcanum, so I can't comment on that. Contact Patron. I don't think this is even needed. A properly done Warlock bond should always be where they can contact each other. Even if that is just you begging them to contact you. Yeah. Obviously, they're meant to be a lot more close in than they used to be. Pact of the Blade, Pact of the Chain, Pact of the Tome. Oh, here's that Book of Shadows cantrip. Yeah. I don't like that there's spells. I'm just gonna stop right there and say that. There should not be a pact spell. That should totally be an ability. If you want, call them an invocation. Obviously, still get invocations. More invocations, though they call them eldritch invocations here. Not sure I like calling them that. Let's see. What? Have they ever properly roleplayed a warlock? In the past, you have usually contacted your patron through intermediaries. Now you can communicate directly. You always have the contact other plane spell prepared. The fuck? You don't need this. Your patron can totally contact you. It's part of what makes you a warlock. And they should be able to contact you even if it's you wanting to contact them. I mean, they can choose to ignore you. That's totally up to your patron. Though annoying your patron is usually a very stupid thing to do. Okay, Hex without a spell slot is nice. I do like that. Yes, that's what I just said. I mean, so really, for a warlock, the patron should definitely be involved in your story. Your patron should be causing you to do stuff. Vic, you should really... obviously, there isn't a lot of it yet, but Baldur's Gate 3 has a great take on Warlock with one of the NPC party members. But, yeah, so Critical Role also did this pretty well, in Season 2. There was, like, a conflict between, the Warlock and his patron, so the patron actually pulled the abilities from the Warlock. So, they didn't get any spellcasting anymore. They were a spellcastingless warlock. But yeah, a good patron and well, the relationship between the warlock and the patron should be very interactive to get the most out of it. I'd have to look it up exactly. Oh, I put it away again. So, I even do this with clerics. Celestia, by the way, does not have traditional clerics. So, you don't see this in Celestia. But especially evil deities in Celestia can do pacts if they choose to. I don't think I brought over the pact system yet. Yeah, I didn't put it in here either. It is technically a type of transformation. But I forget where I stuck it. But pacts are totally a thing. Actually, I might have put it in mystics. Yeah, this is the original version. I've replaced this since. But, some being gives you, the pact, in Celestia. And, you could actually be a fighter and get a pact. Your abilities will express themselves very differently, but what even is that? I'm not familiar with that term. I probably should not look this up on stream. You never know what you're gonna see. A book of demons, apparently. I forget their names. I've studied the Key of Solomon, but, I forget the names. I've actually studied a lot of, shall we call it, our alternative, theology systems. I have at least, like to study a lot of different forms of, religions, Native American religions, Shinto, obviously, the conventional ones that most people know of. I like to study the ideas in them to get ideas. But yeah, I would never remember the Latin, because that's definitely Latin. Ours is a Latin term. And the books of Solomon in particular shouldn't really be in Latin. I mean, they're originally in Hebrew, so. But, yeah, this is totally gonna be a thing in Celestia. I haven't put the new versions of it in. But, yeah. These, actually I put it here. Even the pantheon of corrupted gods, like Dagoth, Kessa, Lilith, Zishu, Suminus, Asmodeus, and Tiamat, can make pacts. But so can ancient dragons, demons, the Fey princes, Jinn, even stranger creatures. So, yeah, there's a potential here. Like, if you were to get your power from the Fae, for instance, the Fae, whichever Fae you're tied to, would definitely have some control of your actions. unless you'd like to lose your pact abilities. The same definitely should apply to this here for the Warlock. Anyway, yeah, that kind of deviated a bit. Yeah, that would not be a thing, especially in Celestia or any of my games. Making a pact with a dragon doesn't make you some sort of draconic sorcerer. You would be, well, a warlock in 5e. I just think they wanted to be lazy. Otherwise, they'd have to make a draconic warlock template. Oops, wrong one. You can see right here, Dragon Pact Mystic. I never put their abilities in, but I definitely considered having a dragon give you your powers. That is a classic fantasy trope. So, yeah, definitely have that. The invocations, they changed a lot of these. I don't really want to go through all of these. Wow. Which sight gives you true sight? That's a bit strong. Didn't it used to give you, like, dark vision? Huh. I'm not sure about that. Well, it says now gives you true sight. I thought that was the one that gave you dark vision, and it could see through magical darkness. Oh no, that was Devil's Sight. Sorry, that is still here. Too many sights. I'd have to look it up. But, yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look way more into some of these to even comment. I'd have to probably put the originals side by side. Life Drinker, by the way, very useful. I like that feature. But it's a Pact of the Blade feature. So you have to have a Pact of the Blade weapon. I like that it restores your health. I actually don't think it should be limited to once per turn for the health regain. Yeah, I remember Thirsting Blade got in there. I still don't think those should be cantrips. Still don't. But yeah, this is sort of a template, the invocations here, for what I did with my monks. Monks get a lot of abilities, though they don't get, like, arcane typically. Usually they get some sort of ability, though. And they only show us the Fiend patron. I've never actually liked the Fiend patron. I was always an elder being sort. So, I won't say much about this, but it does give us a template. Free casting. Burning Hands, kinda nice. Most people no longer use Burning Hands. I remember when it was a core spell, though. Everyone took Burning Hands. There was no Thunder Wave yet, so... Scorching Ray, nice. Nice. There's a duality here, though. Personally, obvious fire theme. And then control of people theme with command, suggestion, fear. Yeah. I would pick one. Make it either themed towards manipulating people or fire. Yeah, well, obviously, you would not want to make it learnable. It should definitely be known. That's what clerics got, by the way. Okay, this is just stupid. I gotta say that. Hurl through hell. When you hit a creature with an attack roll, you can use this feature to instantly transport the target through the lower planes. At the end of your next turn, the target returns to the space it previously occupied, or the nearest unoccupied space. If the target is not a fiend, it must make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC upon its return. Or it takes psychic damage. That is both hilarious and not worth a 14th level ability, all at the same time. I mean, really, all it does is... Oh, 10d10. Okay, damage was a lot higher than I thought. Personally, I think there should be some way to get access to higher level spells, rather than doing this. I mean, that's what this basically is a touch-based, probably 4th or 5th level spell. Probably 5th. That you can only use once per day. Oh, but you can expend a spell slot of at least 4th level to use it again. Yeah, they mentioned this. This is sort of a cop-out. This basically gives you the same thing as like Alter Self, Disguise Self, which have their own abilities, but under one ability here. Oh. Sorry. I know ads. It happens. Yeah, looking at it, it's just anything that was a once per use is treated as that. It's sort of a cop-out. Totally a cop-out. And ironically, this ability right here is replaced by an epic level feat as well. Yes, definitely does. And the ironic thing is, as a 11th or 12th level character, you can't cast 4th or 5th level spells yet, but you now can cast one 6th level spell. How does that work? I actually had a similar issue recently. I had a half-caster class, and I was considering giving them the ability to have higher level spells, but they would have this weird gap. You would go from 4th level spells to 6th level spell with no 5th. That is just stupid. Very stupid. I don't know. Warlock is a very mixed bag. Obviously, they want you to specialize a lot more on cantrips and other spells that you get indefinitely. I don't know. I don't like the feel of that. It's like you're a master in the basics and never to be more. I don't know. Alright, well, I think that does it for the classes. We went through them all. At least to some degree. That was a lot of pages. 44 without the appendices. Probably a couple less because we skipped the feats. Okay, there were 14 initial pages, so 30 pages of classes. So,